We've got a special guest, your favorite MLB insider, Bob Nightengale, is joining us this afternoon. Bob, first thing I want to say, do you think that in this division, having a team like the Padres, having a rival like the Giants compete could actually help the Dodgers just kind of play meaningful baseball throughout the year so you're not getting complacent by the end?
Oh, absolutely. I think you see those teams in the NL Central, AL Central get wiped out come playoff time because they never played the strong competition. I think by being on your toes all season long, look up at the standings. Okay, where's the Padres? Where's the Diamondbacks? That does make a team stronger, and the fans love it too. Hey, it's fun to have a great season, but it gets a little boring in September when you're up at 20 games.
Yeah.
Maybe this time it'll be a fun race. People forget the Dodgers were neck and neck there with the Diamondbacks first week of September. So they won a big series in Phoenix and kind of took off from there.
Yeah, and I think that you look at this division, it just feels like, yeah, you got the big bad Dodgers, this juggernaut team, as you said, people that go 162-0, maybe finish the best record ever, but they're not really afraid. I mean, you had the Diamondbacks adding Corbin Burns, you have the Padres and the Giants looking to compete. I mean, what can you say about just still going for it with these other teams?
Yeah, it's nice that they just didn't fold up and say, you know what, the Dodgers got this thing, we surrender. Where the Padres went out, made some moves. Like you said, Diamondbacks got Corbin Burns. Giants went out and got Willie Adames. So everybody's saying, you know what, we just need to get in the playoffs because anything can happen. We saw that 2 years ago with the Diamondbacks and Texas Rangers in a short series. As we saw last year, the Padres could have easily knocked off the Dodgers. They would have been World Series champions. I'm convinced they're the second best team in baseball.
Yeah, and it's still incredibly early, but do you think that this plays out where it's Dodgers, Padres at the end fighting for the division title, or do you think that it's a 4-team race, a 3-team race? How do you think this division plays out? And do you think the ultimate ending here is the Dodgers win that division?
Yeah, I still think Dodgers are the clear-cut favorite. I still think it's probably more of a 2-team race. I'm not going to dismiss the Diamondbacks. I don't see the Giants hanging around, but I do think all 4 teams have a chance to make the playoffs. So maybe they swallow up all the wild card spots. There are no other wild cards coming from the Central or the NLEs.
Yeah, I know. We would love to hear that. I mean, you got to win this division, and I know that some people think, okay, you win less than 100 games last year. You went on to win the World Series. Maybe that's the formula. This team wants to win as many baseball games as they can in the regular season, put themselves in the best position to have success in October. But of course, you're the guy that lives for trades and kind of player movement and things like that. It's still really, really early on. A lot of teams still feel like they have a shot. Andrew Friedman said this offseason that he does not want to be major players at the trade deadline, that they had hoped to kind of do most of their work in the offseason. And for the most part, the pitchers, they added Blake Snell, the relievers, and you had Blake Trinan back and you get Tanner Scott back. But the center field conversation, I think, is the most interesting one for the Dodgers because you have Andy Pye as a young player still trying to solidify himself in this league. Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez, both played center field last season. But you mentioned recently that the Dodgers had tabled trade discussions that were centered around Luis Robert Jr. First, just do you think that Luis Robert Jr. will be traded this year by the White Sox?
I do. And he's got 2 option years at $20 million apiece. So, they think they can trade him easily. They're just going to get top value for him. They need him to stay healthy. And the Dodgers don't need him, right now. Andy Paez has been, kind of a roller coaster. We'll see what happens. But, there's so few center fielders out there. I think that's why teams will say, you know what, if you're going to trade him, we're going to listen. But he hasn't lived up to projections or expectations now in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's the thing about Luis Robert Jr. I mean, you look at his numbers. I mean, they're well below league average offensively. Do you think this is a classic change of scenery guy when you kind of look under the hood at some of the peripherals? It looks like he should be performing better and the results should be better, but they're just not there. But do you think that a change of scenery would kind of get him back to possibly being that all-star kind of high-ceiling player that he once was?
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, you look at guys. Teoscar Hernandez is a better player now, than he was in Toronto and Seattle. Tommy Edman, was a good player, but not, this caliber of player. Right now he's probably top 10 players in baseball. So no, I think playing that atmosphere, sold out crowds, being around great players lifts everybody up. Whether you're Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman.
And as far as just the acquisition cost, do you think they're looking for a top 5 prospect, maybe a top 30 prospect to pair along with that? I mean, just how big of a haul are the White Sox looking to get for a player that last couple of seasons, he hasn't performed up to expectations, and also he has an injury history as well?
Yeah, that's why they're intrigued by James Outman. Who, Outman probably needs a change of scenery. He just needs to play every day. So who knows? Maybe he could be that type of player in Chicago or somewhere else. And I'm sure they want something more from him, and they're going to ask for that from all 30 teams until they get what they want. So they just need him to stay healthy and start performing. They know if he performs well over, say, a month period, then it'll be a lot easier to trade.
Yeah, and you kind of look at the Dodgers and the White Sox kind of being natural trade partners throughout the years, and just some Dodgers prospects that have been traded to other teams have had success, guys like Michael Busch, and they trade away Gavin Lux, guys like that. But do you ultimately expect the Dodgers, when the deadline rolls around, if Andy Pages doesn't perform to expectations and you just don't find a long-term solution at center field, to say, hey, maybe we'll revisit these conversations with the White Sox and try to get a deal done for Luis Robert Jr.? Do you think the Dodgers will be in the mix for him?
Yeah, certainly if they don't believe that Paez is the answer, just worried about what happens in October with him, they can always get a guy like that and say, let's see if it works or not. We give Outman's right now in AAA. He just depth. You can move, and you can always shift him over to Luis Robert over to left field too. Replace Conforto if you wanted to. So there's options, and I think what you made a great point is a lot of times you see these trades with the same teams. It's because the general managers get along so well. So when you're seeing a Michael Kopech type of trade with the White Sox, it means, okay, these two GMs aren't afraid to deal with each other. A lot of times when these trades go down, it's always with the same teams because they trust each other.
Yeah, and you kind of look at the guys they got in return. I mean, I kind of want to ask that too. I mean, you got someone like Michael Kopech, who he joins the Dodgers. He's throwing 102. He's instrumental in their bullpen, in their World Series run. And then you kind of see the guys they got back in Miguel Vargas, who hasn't had that level of success. Does that kind of play a role in those future deals? Or are teams just saying, hey, no, look, I mean, every player is his own case, and we're not going to base that on how that player performed in a previous deal?
Yeah, I mean, they know what they're getting in Vargas. It's not like they're saying, okay, we got ripped off here, we'll never deal with the Dodgers again. It's like, okay, we still believe in the guy. Wasn't like he was damaged goods or anything like that. They were just hoping he'd play better. But no, I think just a trust factor, like someone's not trying to get over on the other guy. A lot of times, hey, let's be honest, the White Sox, don't want guys that can help them right now. They want guys to help them in the future.
So after the trade deadline, Luis Robert Jr., if you had to pick between stay on the White Sox, be on the Dodgers, or being on one of the other 29 teams, who would you bet on?
I'd probably just say the other 29 teams. I think he'll definitely be gone. We'll see who makes the right offer. I just don't think they want to take the chance that he stays all year and then they don't renew him, and so gets nothing in return. So they definitely want to move him. He's like the last big piece they have to trade.
Yeah, and he's got that attractive 2 club options there, $20 million. So yeah, I mean, if he can play like that 5-tool all-star, he'd be great value at that price. Now, also want to talk about Nolan Arenado. A lot of talk this offseason about Arenado and just having that no trade clause. Would he accept a deal with the Astros? There was talk that he wanted to be a Dodger and things like that. The first thing is he's getting off to a really good start this season. Do you think this is going to be a bounce back year for Arenado? And then how will that impact his market? And do you think the Cardinals will look to move him?
Yeah, the Cardinals still want to move him. They're actually playing pretty well.
Yeah.
They're above 500. But yeah, they still want to move him. The question was, okay, the Cubs, with Matt Bush, sent him down to the minor leagues. I don't think the Cardinals could ever trade him to the Cubs. Just a bitter rival. I don't see that happening without the Cardinal fans going ballistic. I do think that Arenado will get moved at some point. And, if something ever happened to Muncy or something like that, they'd probably do cartwheel. I mean, Arenado would do cartwheels to get to L.A., his hometown. I mean, he could have gone to Houston, turned that down. Could have gone to the Angels, turned that down too. So, but yeah, he would jump up and down and have a chance to go to the Dodgers. But, the Dodgers don't need him with Muncy, and he still has some good money coming left. He still got about $60 million over 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the contract, you look at the age. I mean, but if he plays like this and they look to move him, like how important is that no trade clause for Arenado knowing that, hey, if the Dodgers were interested, you can kind of almost work a way where you can kind of find your way to LA based on that. I mean, how important is that from a leverage standpoint from Arenado's point of view?
Yeah, I mean, it's great for him just to say, okay, this is where I want to go. I mean, he would have gone to Boston. He was hoping Bregman would not go there because they had a deal worked out. He was going to go to Boston until Bregman signed. Same thing in Houston. That deal was done too until Arenado declined it. The talks with the Angels weren't that advanced, but he shut that down in a hurry, saying, hey, I want to win right now. I don't want to wait a few years. So, no, having a no trade clause is great for every player.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be the year like 2050. We're going to be talking about will Nolan Arenado be traded to the Dodgers, right? We've been talking about for so many years. And will it ever happen? We don't know. But I think from the start of the season, if you were looking at as a possibility, at least you have to be interested in the sense that if things don't work out with Max Muncy, or there's an injury or something like that happens, at least he's having a good year. So he looks like a viable option from that standpoint. As far as Max Muncy goes, he's gotten off to a slow start this season. He hasn't hit a home run yet. You've seen a lot better at-bats lately. He's drawn a walk or multiple walks in his last 4 games. He has a $10 million club option this offseason. Do you think that he's in a position where, hey, I'm trying to kind of press a little bit early on to maybe get a multi-year deal? Just kind of what do you think the future holds with Max Muncy and the Dodgers? Do you think that they continue on past this season?
I do. And I mean, picking up $10 million is a no-brainer. So great advantage for the Dodgers. I would think they'd just simply do that and then play it by year and see what happens after the end of 2026. He loves it there. Obviously, they love him. So I don't see Muncy going anywhere.
Yeah, and he's so important in that clubhouse, just like one of those big presences that really was a part of that 2024 World Series. And he was one of the guys, him and Mookie, that said, hey, we got to be hanging out during this break in between the wild card and the DS. He's just so important. I couldn't see them moving on from Muncy. Now, it's going to feel like, Bob, that they're going to be trading for a top-line starter once Shohei Ohtani is ready to pitch for this team. They've kind of been slow playing him back, and he hasn't thrown sliders yet. He's up to 30 pitches in the bullpen sessions. But just kind of what are you hearing right now about Shohei Ohtani and his progression to get back on the mound?
Well, the Dodgers really need him right now. He'd be starting next week. I mean, they kind of stopped his progression in spring training. He was coming on fast. He's ready to go. They could go almost any time, certainly within 10 days if they wanted to. So they're just going to say, you know what, we want a fresh arm come October. That's what it's all about. We don't want to waste any extra bullets in these early months. So I would think that come back. It used to be May. Now you're thinking, okay, late June or July, but just to make sure he's healthy. It could be a number 1 or number 2, come playoff time. But yeah, he's ready to go.
And do you think this is all just, hey, you're gonna coming off that labrum surgery, you want to focus on what you're doing at the plate, and then also you want to make sure he's 100% right and ready to go to help this team in October because he's never pitched in the postseason.
Right. I mean, I think just making sure that's a fresh arm is almost like Clayton Kershaw. It's like, okay, we're going to make sure he's healthy in the second half. They're going to be so careful with guys. Blake Snell is okay. If he's ready after 15 days, they may say, you know what, let's take a little bit more time. Keep your innings down. I mean, last year, when they have 3 guys pitch in the postseason, they didn't even have 100 innings.
Yeah, they're going to have you come out and close the World Series, man. You were like right in the pecking order there, Bob, there in New York. And as far as kind of the expectations for Shohei Ohtani, of course, second major arm surgery, the results are mixed with a lot of different guys. But for someone like himself, I mean, just you as a fan of the game, I mean, are you expecting top 10 ace level pitcher from him, or do you kind of temper those expectations a little bit with what he's able to do on the mound?
Yeah, I'd say maybe top 20, that sort of thing. Dominate, but say early on, they're not going to have him go 7, 8, 9 innings. They'll probably stop him at 4 or 5 innings just to keep that natural progression going. I'll be more curious to see what happens, Doug, after next year. I think he'll be in the rotation again in 2026. Then we'll see what happens. I mean, I think his sheer love is just as a hitter. So it'll be fascinating in a couple of years if he gives up pitching. What do? Do they put him in the outfield? Obviously, a great athlete. Probably be a waste to have him as a full-time DH because his athleticism is so good.
Yeah, I've heard he loves to pitch, he lives to hit. So, I mean, the fact that he can do both at a high level makes him the unicorn. You think he ends up in the outfield, though? I mean, I think you're right. I mean, the athleticism, you don't want to have him just as a DH, but you think maybe just 2 more years of pitching or 3? I mean, what do you think are realistic expectations for that?
I think one more for sure after this. I think 2026. We'll see what happens if there's a work stoppage or anything like that in 2027. But I think that's it. I think he pitches because he knows he can do it, fun novelty and stuff. But I think his heart and soul is really into hitting. I think he'd love to, break the record and get over 60 home runs, maybe even over, 73 one day to break Bond's record. But I think he loves that. And if he's not in the outfield, you can certainly put him at first base when Freddie Freeman retires, something like that. But he's such an athletic guy, I just can't see limiting him to being a DH.
Do you think he's one of those guys where as long as he's even pitching maybe like 10 to 12 starts at a top 20 level while doing what he does at the plate, that he should be a runaway to almost win a unanimous MVP just because no one can do what he can do?
If those 10 or 12 starts are dominant, particularly if it helps the team down the stretch. I mean, if they're in a dogfight with the Padres and Diamondbacks and he's pitching lights out in September, that goes a long way among voters. I always vote for, National League MVP, and it will go a long way with me. And sometimes it helps an MVP case if it's a close race. If he's performing well, helping the team win the division by 2 games, I think a lot of times it means more than win your division by 20 games because he was just that impactful.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He is that every single night. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're going to see the out of the Dodger Stadium, out of the pavilion home run. It's coming. Once it warms up, he's hit one out of the yard. Couple more here with Bob Nightengale joining us here on Dodgers Dugout Live. Bob, big picture as far as zooming out in all of Major League Baseball, do you expect Sandy Alcantara to be the biggest name that could be dealt at the deadline?
I do. I think they'll come trade him probably late July. And the beauty about him is you got him for 2 more years after this at cheap money, like $17 million a year. So, and there's a club option too. So it's someone's gonna have to give up a ton. As much as the Padres gave up for Juan Soto, it may cost a team more than that, what they gave up for Soto. Same thing with the Yankees. That's going to be a steep, steep price.
Do you expect teams like the Cubs, I mean, any kind of market kind of forming for him early on?
Yeah, I'm not sure the Cubs have those kind of prospects, or the Padres don't really need them. I don't think they have those type of prospects. So, no, I think you'll have, the Yankees doing everything possible. I mean, the Cubs are in a win now mode, particularly with Kyle Tucker being a free agent after this year. So I think they would give up about anything. But no, the Marlins will have, they'll have probably about 10 teams calling on them, willing to give up half their farm system.
And you expect Bo Bichette to possibly be dealt? I mean, we know the Blue Jays just got that big deal done with Vladdy. Mookie has really looked good. All the advanced metrics say that early sample, he's improved a lot at shortstop. But do you think Bo Bichette gets moved?
I don't think so. I think they're going to keep him all year and see what happens. The reason I say that is I don't think any executive thought that Vladdy was worth $500 million. But for PR purposes, you had to sign him. The fans are upset with what's going on. They had to make sure he's around. So I don't think you're going to take that goodwill and just throw it out the window and trade Bichette unless they're completely out of it. I think Bichette stays all season, and then he's a free agent. I don't think he goes back to Toronto.
Interesting stuff. I mean, the bat looks better. It looks like he's a little more like the Bo Bichette we saw from a couple years ago. Just kind of going back to Mookie really quick. This is not something that we see, right? Unprecedented. A guy north of 30, 6-time Gold Glove Award winning right fielder going to shortstop. How impressive is that to you? Just kind of seeing what he's been able to do at that position. And do you think he does have the potential to play there for multiple seasons?
Well, there's a game plan for him to stay there. If he keeps this up and plays well through the season and play in the postseason, I mean, that's unbelievable accomplishment. Then you're saying, well, what would have happened if you just had left him at shortstop when he got drafted? And he was originally a shortstop. How good could he be? It's almost like, a little bit when Bo Jackson, when I was kind of Bo Jackson, he's like, okay, what if he just dedicated himself strictly to baseball at Auburn and again in the pros instead of doing football too? How good could he have been? So same thing with Mookie. How could he have been as a shortstop if he just left him there?
Yeah, I mean, think about that. I mean, that'd be pretty incredible. I mean, that's something too. We talk about narratives in the MVP. if Shohei doesn't pitch or Mookie kind of continues this offensively, I think you have to consider defensively what he's done and how important that is. Now, as far as the Dodgers go, last question here. Unless there's an injury, I mean, do you expect them to just kind of keep what they have because they have so much? Or do you think that they'll still tinker, maybe add an arm, maybe add a bat, something like that around if they need to?
Yeah, I think they're always going to tinker. So I could see them adding another outfielder, maybe a reliever, but the bullpen is so strong, so I'm not even sure that. Obviously, they don't need a starter, but yeah, I would say if they're going to pick up one piece, maybe an outfielder, even if it's a fourth or fifth outfielder, to have on the bench come playoff team. Andrew Friedman isn't going to sit pat. As good as the team looks, you still want to improve on that. And you can certainly improve the outfield by adding one more piece.
Yeah, they're always going to do something for sure. There's no doubt about it. Well, Bob, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining us here on Dodgers Dugout Live. Don't worry, I didn't bombard you with torpedo back questions or are the Dodgers ruining baseball, things like that. We appreciate every single second you come onto this show. We'll check in with you at some point during the season. And yeah, man, have a great weekend.
All right, you too, Doug. My pleasure.
Thanks a lot. There he goes, the great Bob Nightengale. You can read all of his work over at USA Today.